Lyman.
All right, who's first over at the jail?
I have call number 5, Judge, Melissa Lineman.
Go ahead.
Judge Peyton Wilson on behalf of Ms. Lyman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Mills, you here for the Commonwealth?
It's James Mills, Your Honor.
All right, is this on for a revocation hearing today? Bond revocation?
My understanding of the disposition was we had filed a motion to revoke her bond, alleging that she had failed to sign up with monitored conditional release and was also failed to report for a drug screen in December. And I think Mr. Wilson filed a motion to quash the bench warrant based upon her incarceration at the time that drug screen was supposed to occur. She actually, I checked it out on CourtNet. I think he's correct. She was incarcerated on another indictment starting on November 5th, and I think she's currently a state inmate. And as far as I'm concerned, after speaking with pretrial services, I think Mr. Wilson's right. I think we'll withdraw our motion to hold her without bail in this case. But just so long as when she's released off of her state sentence or makes parole, that she go ahead and submit to monitored conditional release and make all her court dates on this case.
Judge, if I may, Mr. Mills' rendition of the procedural posture is very accurate. The only thing that I would add, Ms. Lyman is intent on pleading this case out. I believe she's actually tendered the motion and a signed offer sheet in this matter. A co-defendant in the matter wants it tried. I think that the court, if I recall correctly, was inclined to take the plea at the conclusion of the co-defendant's trial. And we were just hoping to have her bond reinstated. She couldn't have missed those drug screens like Mr. Mills was saying, because she was actually a state inmate at the time that those screens were supposed to have taken place. So we really appreciate that. I would second the Commonwealth's position.
All right, I will grant the motion to reinstate the bond.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the MCR, is that the drug insight where I call my color every month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I've been doing that since March, so I just wanted to make sure that that's what that was.
You just keep doing that, Ms. Lyman, if they cut you loose on the other case.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure what conditions were in place prior.
As far as I know, it was just calling the inside every day to make sure I didn't have a drug screen.
Hurst is on here. I guess if she knows exactly what she needs to be doing.
Well, I'm just going to reinstate the bond under the same conditions.
Okay.
Okay,
Whatever-
Thank
whatever
you.
Whatever conditions were in place before, they're in place now.
all right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, ma'am. Good luck.
Ms. Lyman, make sure you get in touch with me before August 23rd.
Yes, sir.
That's when that jury trial's set. They'll need you there that day, okay?
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right, who's next over at the jail?
I have Talia Patterson, call number 4.
Commonwealth versus Talia Nicole Patterson, 19 CR 1150.
she's asking for 10% or a surety bond. I don't mean 10%, I mean bail credit or a surety bond.
Let's see, and she's being, is this her? Now she's being held without bond, I believe, because of her failure to appear for a pretrial conference.
Yes,
I call her as a witness.
yes,
Ms. Patterson, raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Sir,
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
state your name, please.
Talia Nicole Patterson,
Where do you live?
835 South 11th Street, Paducah, Kentucky, 42003.
Who do you live with?
My mom and sister.
And have you lived in Paducah your whole life?
Yes,
See, I believe this is the case where all the items were returned,
yes, sir.
recovered. Why did you miss your court date?
It was a mix up. It was on December 8th, but I mistaked it for December 9th. I was just gonna come the wrong day.
Okay, if you were to bond out, would you make your court dates?
Yes, sir.
And what else would you be doing while out on bond?
I have a job set up, so I'd be working until then.
Working and living with your mother?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you been in jail?
2 months.
Okay. Is there anything else you want the judge to know? I think we basically covered it, but just in case I'm leaving anything out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Mills.
So thank you. Ms. Patterson, it looks like this case has been going on since November of 2019. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the thing that troubles me as much as or maybe more than not showing up for your pretrial conference is that since this case has been going on, you've been charged with 2 subsequent crimes, correct?
I do believe so.
You pled guilty to possessing marijuana over the summer, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
And then you've been charged also with criminal mischief for breaking out a window. Not saying whether you did it or not. I'm just saying you've been charged with that.
Yes, sir.
So as far as your performance on bond while this case is going on, you've missed a court date because you got mixed up, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you've committed 1 misdemeanor offense, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're charged with another misdemeanor offense.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Patterson, that's all I have.
Hang on,
Just,
Mr. Johnson.
just to follow up, I had forgotten to ask about your mother. She's been employed at the same place for a very long time, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And would she be willing to serve as a surety to sign you out and make good if you were not to appear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have.
Follow up, Mr. Mills.
No, Your Honor, that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Johnson, you have an argument?
Well, on this case, I know she's been in for going on 2 months on stemming from the missed court date and not necessarily the underlying offense. But I would think that 2 months would be a significant incarceration due to the nature of this offense or the particular facts of this case. I think she would be living with her mother, who seems to be reliable. She's been at the same job for a very long time. And I don't think she'd be a flight risk. I think she would make her court dates. I would acknowledge Mr. Mills made some points. She has a new charge, and I can understand where that would trouble him. But we would just contend that if she were to be given bail credit, or if her mother was allowed to be at a surety, I don't think that would be inappropriate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Mills, what's the Commonwealth's position?
I hate being put in a position where I have to oppose bail for somebody that's accused of stealing a little over $500. But here we are with her missing court and picking up new charges. If the court is inclined to reinstate her bail, we'd ask that it be a cash bond and something that would give her more incentive to appear and deal with the case. But to be honest with you, she seems like a bad risk to show up, and a bad risk as far as committing new crimes. So Commonwealth does oppose.
The court finds that Ms. Patterson is a flight risk, and she failed to appear in this case with no adequate excuse. She will be held without bond until this case is resolved. Who's next over at the jail?
I have Pamela Wright, call number 10.
Commonwealth versus Pamela D. Wright, 20 CR 728.
Sorry I'm late, but I had technical issues.
You're right on time, Ms. Lee. All right, let's see. Ms. Wright is currently being held without bond after she failed to appear for her arraignment on December the 3rd. And Ms. Lee, what is your request today?
Well, Your Honor, she requested a bond hearing and we put that request in. However, before she requested that bond hearing, she called my office and she asked for a KCPC evaluation. I don't know if you have it there, but CourtNet shows that we filed a KCPC evaluation. And as I read it, that stopped everything.
Let's see. Well, at first glance through the file, I didn't see that I'd signed an order for an evaluation.
Okay.
Didn't
Well-
see your motion for an evaluation.
Yeah, we had a motion evaluation, and I saw that, and it was filed on the 19th, motion for on the 19th.
February?
Yes, Your Honor, February the 19th.
And of course, I don't have the motion here, but Ms. Lee, you've got reasonable grounds to believe that Ms. Wright might be suffering from a mental illness which would render her incompetent?
Yes, Your Honor, after several phone calls between her, myself, and my staff, she did call and she requested herself the KCPC evaluation after meeting with mental health over at the jail. And for that reason, I went ahead and put the request in.
Okay. Well, I need to, hopefully that'll make its way to the file here soon. But anyway, we're not going to have a bond hearing on Ms. Wright while there's a motion pending for a psychological evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
So right now, I'm going to
Your Honor,
deny the motion for bond reduction, but I'll grant you leave to refile that, Ms. Lee, later.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And I was trying to see, I could see it in CourtNet that it was filed, and so without having the paper file in my hand, but so, okay, thank you.
Ms. Wright, did you have a question?
yes, I didn't understand what I was just trying to, I'm able to stand up and, you know,
Well,
I mean,
unfortunately,
every time I call the office, I can't talk to her. And I don't know I've been in here 43 days on a failure to appear. And I don't understand things. I mean, there's some things happen, and I've lost my daughter a year ago to suicide. I found her dead. That does affect my mind. That's where I'm saying, like, then my old man got killed 2015 in a motorcycle wreck, and I lost my dad. So it's just, that's mentally, that's the mental that I'm talking about. I can stand good in here. I just don't understand the public defender, that some of the things that every time I call there, I don't understand what I'm trying to ask them. They don't talk to me. Why I don't talk to this lady? I don't understand that. It's not that I draw a check, but I get my own money. I don't have to have a payee. My mental is through finding my daughter and my old man getting killed. That is the mental I'm talking about.
All right.
And
Well,
that-
Ms. Wright, things are going to have to go, it's going to have to go through the system.
I mean, I'm able to stand up here and put my hand up, and I know right from wrong.
I
need
understand that,
both.
Ms. Wright, but I have to make sure that,
I'm mentally able to stand up for myself.
I hear what you're saying, ma'am, but we're going to make sure. Good luck, Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that, with the flight risk thing, with the.
Okay, ma'am, I've already made the decision. I'm not going to hear any more evidence in the case. All right, who do we have here?
I have Jordan Mays, call number 6.
Commonwealth versus Jordan Mays, 20 CR 496.
Your Honor, I represent Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. See, Mr. Mays, I believe, is being held without bond after he failed to appear for a pretrial conference last month. What is your request today, Mr. Brown?
Your Honor, I had filed a bond motion on Mr. Mays' behalf to try to get him on the docket. I don't think that he's ever filed a formal bond motion in circuit court. He was released administratively. And Your Honor, I put it up to the court as far as how you want to proceed today. I would be asking to have his bond reinstated today, Your Honor. And
Okay.
I'm prepared to take testimony or to have testimony taken from Mr. Mays.
He's entitled to a hearing on that. Mr. Mays, would you raise your right hand, please, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir.
Proceed, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Mays, state your name for the record.
Jordan Devon Mays.
Okay, now, Mr. Mays, you had previously been out on bond. You were released RLR, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, were you working during that period?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you had several jobs, is that correct? Could you talk about that?
I had 2 jobs at Little Caesars and at Inland Marine, working on a boat.
And you maintained full-time employment throughout that period?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Now, on the date in question, you had missed a pretrial conference date, is that correct, as far as appearing on Zoom?
Yes, sir. The courthouse was closed on January 4th. But yes, sir, I do.
Okay, well, that's what I want to talk about. What I know that you'd appeared on Zoom before, hadn't you?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay.
I was getting a link. And whenever I got off the boat, I didn't have internet, so I could come to the courthouse. The courthouse was closed, and I just didn't have the link to it to get back on Zoom.
Okay. So you had internet issues basically on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you did make an attempt to try to come to the courthouse, but obviously it was closed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. But you had previously been in court while you were working on Zoom before, so you know how that works. You can attend court through Zoom. Is that correct?
Sir?
You know how to do it. You know how to attend court through Zoom.
Yes, sir. They'll send a link, and whenever they do send a link, I have to log in my password, log in on the link that they send to Zoom. But whenever, like I said, I try to, and I had internet issues, I come to the courthouse. At the time, they was letting people in. The week prior, a few people at a time. And then, like I said, the courthouse was closed January 3rd or January 4th. I'm sorry.
Now, if you're released back on bond, do you have employment lined up?
Yes, sir, I do. I still have my job. And I still do have my stimulus checks. And I still, like, if there's any fines or restitution that I need to pay, I can pay it within 2 weeks.
As far as like the phone or internet issues, do you have a way to remedy that in the future so you can always make your court dates?
Yes, sir. My grandmother, she got Wi-Fi and internet in her house. That's where I'll be going to my grandmother's, back to my grandmother's.
Okay. That's all the questions I have at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, do you have questions for Mr. Mays?
Briefly, Your Honor. So, Mr. Mays, your last felony conviction was a fraudulent firearm transaction back in 2018. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I filled out a background check. I didn't know my stepdad had put an EPO DBO on me. And at the time, like I said, I went to go try to legally purchase one. And the pawn shop said, if we don't hear anything within 5 days, come back and get it. I never received a phone call saying that I could legally come back and get it. So I never, tried to make the attempt to go get it. And they said that I got picked up like a night before when I was supposed to go to Statesboro, Georgia, to go for a job. And like I said, I just filled a background check out. I didn't know how to EPO DBO.
And you got your probation revoked on that, correct, in 2019?
Yes, sir.
Was that because you received an assault conviction?
It was a self-defense.
Well, you pled guilty to assault.
Yes, sir. But it was at the end of the day, it was still self-defense. Another man put my girlfriend through a glass table, and then he'd come at me, and then I just defended myself and my girlfriend.
So, what's the status of your last felony sentence? Have you served that out? Or are you on parole?
No, I'm not on parole or probation. I'm on anything. I was actually going to ask if I can take the rocket docket or even ask for jail credit. I've done 36 days. I've been incarcerated now for 36 days to this day.
All right, Mr. Mays, and I don't know that I really understood why it was you couldn't appear in court virtually because you came down to the courthouse physically. Explain that to me.
I was having internet issues with my cell phone, and then I had come down to the courthouse because, like I said, at the week prior, they was letting people in, like I'm pretty sure like 10 people at a time, and I guess that week that they ended up closing on January 4th which was a Monday or Tuesday, and I tried to get a hold of the public defender's office when nobody answered, and I tried to get another court date, and like I said, they still wouldn't answer. I haven't missed a court date. I'll always show up. I've made my court dates appearances before then. Like I have no reason to not show up. Like I'm a man of my word. I've been in the military. I do what I have to do. I take care of my grandmother. She's been sick twice. Like I'm her caretaker. I'm just.
All right, Mr. Mays. That's all the questions that I have.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mays, what happened when you came to the courthouse on January 4th?
The courthouse was closed, and they was handing out papers to call the public defender's office. I called all the way before 4 o'clock until the public defender's office closed. Never got an answer.
Okay, did you give your name to anybody there?
Yes, sir. Her name started with a B. She's the one who usually answers it in the mornings. There's a different one who answers it at 2
Okay,
o'clock.
I'm not talking about at the public defender's office. I'm talking about the courthouse.
No, sir. I just told them that I had to be at court today, and they just gave me a piece of paper and said to try to call the public defender's office. And I did nobody answer.
Now, was all the piece of paper said, call the public defender's office?
They told me to call the public defender's office, hand me a piece of paper, and told me that the courthouse was closed and everything would be on virtual Zoom.
What did the piece of paper say?
I couldn't verbatimly say it. I mean, I don't know word for word, but I know that I got the piece of paper saying that the courthouse was closed due to the shutdowns to the public. It wasn't shut down to the actual works, but it shut down to the public.
Anything else, Mr. Brown?
Your Honor, just our argument.
I'll hear it.
Your Honor, I've represented Mr. Mays before. One reason this issue stands out to me today is I do remember Mr. Mays participating in various court dates with this case over Zoom. I know that he was working while he was doing it, and it stands out in my mind because I watched him work, an hour or so a shift at Little Caesars. He was making pizzas the whole time, and then, he got on and did what he was supposed to do with court. And I think on another occasion, he was actively on the boat, and I think I had to call him up before his cell phone died. He had made that request. So he'd been making the effort to not only work, but also to participate in court. So I was shocked when he ran into difficulty and wasn't able to appear that day. It did stand out in my mind because I know that he had put forth, pretty serious effort to participate before and knew how to do it. So I tend to believe, I don't think Mr. Mays had a reason to not appear, having his history of having done that while he was even working. I would ask the court to give him a second chance at bond. I think that he'll make his court dates going forward. He knows how to do it. But like I said, Your Honor, this is one occasion that with Mr. Mays in particular, we've done this close to a year. He stands out in my mind as, having worked the whole time that he was, waiting for his case to be called on Zoom. So I know he knows how to do it. I don't doubt him that he probably had some difficulty that day, but I think going forward, he can correct that and make sure that he makes his court appearances.
All right, Mr. Brown, thank you very much. Mr. Mills, what does Commonwealth say?
Well, Mr. Mays he's got a lot of excuses. I don't know how valid or invalid they are. I will say that it's clear that him being released on this charge without having to post any bond does not seem to have enough weight with him to ensure his appearance. So if the court is inclined to reinstate a bond, the Commonwealth would request that the court please set it at a cash amount that would give him incentive to appear in further appearances.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Court finds that Mr. Mays is a flight risk. He failed to appear in this case. I'm not saying he didn't encounter difficulty. Rather than keep him with no bond, however, on the off chance that
I can guarantee you that I would never miss.
Mr. Mays, I'm the one who's talking now.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I
Talk
apologize.
me right out of helping you.
Sorry, sir. I apologize.
Don't like being interrupted, Mr. Mays.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Rude.
Yes, sir.
Rather than keep Mr. Mays incarcerated without bond in this case, I'll set his bond at $2,500 cash. Non-financial conditions, no further violations of the law, not to consume any alcohol or use illegal drugs, not to possess any weapons, report to pretrial services immediately upon release, and random drug testing while he is awaiting trial in this case. All right, good luck, Mr. Mays.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
May I ask for jail credits? I've been here for 30
No jail credit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who's next?
I have Joseph Myers, call number 9 and 11.
Thank you.
I think there's three. I think it's 9, 11, and 12.
Sorry.
20
12.
CR 702, 20 CR 880, 21 CR 40, Commonwealth versus Joseph P. Myers. And Mr. Wilson, you represent Mr. Myers.
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Myers is being held without bond. Let's see, let me find the reason for that. Failed to appear for his arraignment on December the 3rd. Are you going to call Mr. Myers as a witness, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir, I am.
Mr. Myers, raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Mr. Myers, can you state your name for the record?
Joseph Myers.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Myers, you heard the judge moments ago reference that you missed a court date in December. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Were you, hold on just a second, were you aware that you had a court date December 3rd?
I was aware. Yes, I was.
Okay, how did you know that you were supposed to be there in court?
Because I'd had a previous date, and I don't remember the date exactly, but I was arraigned on possession of the methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia. I was offered a rocket docket, and I'd spoken to you, and you said that you had paperwork for me to send, and you asked for my email, and I said, well, I don't have an email. Can I send it to you privately? I mean, because I didn't want to do it in front of court. And you said, okay, well, go ahead and when you get a chance, just send your email, and that's what I was given the second day. I was checking my phone because I was unsure what the next step was to take after that because of my arraignment, and I had like pretrial or skipping a pretrial thing, and I wasn't sure what the next step was. So I was checking.
Sure, and hang on. I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Myers, but hang on just a second. You're saying that you were offered a rocket docket at the prelim, and you accepted that?
I was an arraignment. I think it was an arraignment for the charge when I was arrested.
Right, Mr. Myers, if you don't mind, if you don't know, just say that. It doesn't sound like an arraignment to me, but again, you are describing what is generally a rocket docket situation in district court. That is a preliminary hearing phase. If you don't mind, though, what I'm asking about is, did they give you another court date after that rocket docket case?
No, sir.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Right. Did you ever receive? Hang on. Did you ever receive notice in the mail regarding a new arraignment date?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever get any correspondence or a phone call or anything at all about that next court date, which was the arraignment date in circuit court? I believe the first time was 11/12.
No, I did not.
And regarding this 12/3, isn't it also true that you didn't receive notice regarding that 12/3 arraignment date?
No, notice at all.
Okay. As far as that goes, and I just want to walk back on this, Mr. Myers, if you were given a bond that you could make in the bail jumping cases, which are at $10,000, or the underlier, which is the possession case you were referring to moments ago, which is held with no bond, where would you be staying?
I would be staying right off 6th Street with a friend named Carl Campbell, and he has. I have
What's the address?
It's 414 Elizabeth Street.
Here in Paducah?
Here in Paducah, just right down the street, and I have access to internet and all that good stuff there, and that's where I'll be staying.
So just to be clear, you could attend court virtually moving forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you have any issue complying with some of the terms that the judge might levy on you, like drug screening or calling in and meeting with pretrial? Would you have any issues with that?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, do you think you can comply with those conditions moving forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, now, do you understand that you've got to make these court dates? It is remarkably important that you make these court dates.
Yes, sir. I'm not trying to avoid the court at all. I'd like to get this done and through with. Yes, I do understand this. I've been here 30 days now. So, I mean.
Right, how long was that again?
I've been here 30 days.
Okay.
29 days today.
Sure. And are you able to make those $10,000 cash bonds?
No, sir. I'm innocent. I have no way of making any bond at all, and no one out there to bond for me.
I understand. So just to be clear, you have no means or money set aside that you could make these bonds?
Absolutely none.
Okay. When you get out, do you have a plan as far as employment goes?
I work as a digital artist, freelance digital artist online. And I make cash that way, but it's not, constant, but that's how I do make money.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to finding another job, a better job. I don't have any resources. I've lost my ID, and I'm looking forward to getting into a position where maybe in probation where I can find resources to get myself back on my feet.
Right. You're a little far ahead of the game there as far as talking about probation. That would assume a conviction later on down the line. So I don't mind just training from that for now. As far as the bond situation goes, you're saying that you could make ends meet by doing this digital art that you're referring to. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you be able to pay any fees regarding drug testing or anything like that?
Sure.
Okay. As far as like an ankle monitor or anything of the like, do you have any issue with going on a watch?
Of course not. No.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like the judge to consider in evaluating whether or not to reinstate your bond and give you some bond relief on these bail jumping cases?
I think I pretty much said all I can say about it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Mills might have some questions for you.
Mr. Myers, it looks like when this case began, you did a preliminary hearing that was scheduled to happen on the, I think the September 22nd, 2020. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, yes.
You waived it to accept a rocket docket plea. Now, according to the docket sheet that I have, it says you were given the arraignment date of the 12th of November.
12th of November.
Mm-hmm.
I have no recollection of this. It was a chaotic moment at the time about trying to get the email set. I was really nervous. I don't have any recollection of this, but I mean, yeah, I'm sure you're correct.
Okay. You did not appear on the 12th of November, did you?
No, sir. At the time, I was facing an eviction and dealing with my landlord. It was caused me a lot of trouble, threatening to throw my stuff out and all those things. And so my life was pretty much wrapped up in that drama at that moment. It's an unfortunate.
All right. Now, where are you from, Mr. Myers? You're from Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did you move here?
I moved here about 5 years ago now. I've stayed out of trouble completely. I've not had any prior arrests here in Kentucky. In Tennessee, I had probation. I successfully completed.
What was your probation for? Was it for theft?
No, sir. It was for domestic violence and possession of drug paraphernalia. I don't remember the year, but this was in Memphis, Tennessee. No, excuse me, Humboldt, Tennessee.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
But Judge, if I may, I would like to, excuse my client as testifying, and then I would like to explore when he was noticed, if I can call Ms. Chanel.
Who was noticed for what?
So the missed court date on 11/12, I don't know that he actually had any meaningful service. Granted, he's there, but the indictment doesn't look like it's filed until that day. And so it's kind of clunky, but it looks like it was still an F case when the original FTA was issued. And so in that way, I don't know that he was actually effectively on notice for the 12/3 date. I think that is important for the court's consideration here.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Wilson, the court will take judicial notice of what happened in the district court. In district court, he waived his preliminary hearing, was given the arraignment date of November the 12th. So that's what happened.
Yes, sir, and I completely understand that the even if that is absolutely validated with the video of that day, my concern is this FTA for 12/3. How does he know when the warrant's not served? It looks like until even on the 11/12 missed court date.
Yeah, and that is a valid point, Mr. Wilson.
You see what I'm saying, Judge? I mean,
I don't know how his arraignment got set for the. Well, let's see. Unless it was. Yeah, I'm not sure if the second. I mean, you might have defense to the second bail jumping.
I just think, if anything, Your Honor, I'm trying to establish that certainly mitigates the amount at issue there, because without notice, I don't know that he would have been on notice to be there and then is effectively bail jumping that second time. Even on the first time, Judge, I've still got some heartburn about it, because if it's still an F case, I don't know that the circuit court's vested with jurisdiction. Now, granted, you can still bail jump an F
I'll
case.
tell you what, Mr. Wilson, what happens, what happens is if the case is not yet considered by the grand jury, they still have to appear, and then I continue the arraignment.
Yes, sir. And that's
If they
what
don't
I'm
appear,
saying.
I still issue a bench warrant, and that's what happened in this case.
Yes, sir. Being that you're taking notice of the district court filed or the district court proceedings, it is indicative in those that he had an issue with notice and really this service. And I think that has to do with his indigency. And really that's part of what I'd like to get into in my argument part of this. And I'd be happy to just make a statement on that.
He was told his court date was November the 12th.
Yes, sir.
So that's not an issue, and indigency doesn't have any bearing on that. Now, the December 3rd, I'm not sure that there's proof in the file that he knew that he had to report for his arraignment on December the 3rd. I don't see any, so I can't be certain that he was served with notice for the December 3rd. So that's,
Okay.
that's in your client's favor, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt on the December 3rd issue.
Yes, sir. If I may, Judge, I'll just.
Not the November the 12th.
I understand. If I may just turn to the argument portion of the hearing, I'll be happy to just bring it up that way. I think, Your Honor, as far as that goes, to the second, the likelihood of a conviction does come into the court's purview of analysis in cases like this. We would just ask that is reflected on the bond in the second bail jumping case. That said, we're hopeful to have the first reinstated and the what appears to be the legit veritable bail jumping that he was at least tag notice there in district court and should have been present for that 11/12 date. We're hopeful that he can have a bond that is reflective of the severity or gravity of these offenses and really particularly tailored to the underlier. With that, it looks like he can't make much. He is asking for bail credit in an effort to try to take up residence here close to the courthouse so he can attend moving forward. But with all of that, we're just hopeful that he can have a bond he can make.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Mills?
Commonwealth opposes. Mr. Myers did not appear on the 12th when he was ordered to do so. Probably has more to do with his candid admission that he was in the middle of a lot of things like being evicted at the time that was going on. If the court is inclined to grant Mr. Myers a bond, we'd ask that it be a cash bond to give him more incentive to appear for future court dates.
Okay. Court also notices that pretrial service report indicates that Mr. Myers is a high risk to not appear. He failed to appear for his arraignment in case 20 CR 702 on November the 12th without any justification whatsoever. So he'll be held without bond in that case. Additionally, he's got a $10,000 bail jumping case, and that's 21 CR 40. Actually, let me do the first one first. 20 CR 880 for failing to appear for his arraignment on November the 2nd. His bond is $10,000 on that. That will remain $10,000 cash. In case 21 CR 40, I'm not sure that he had noticed that he's supposed to appear on the December the 3rd, so I'll release him on his own recognizance on that charge, on that case only. So he's been held without bond on 702, and then 880, 10,000 cash, and then the other one's ROR. I don't think that helps him any, but I think that I think that's fair.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. And if I may just address him briefly, we'll be in touch.
These are all in order now.
All right, well, I've got Ms. Lee and Mr. Mills on the phone. I've got an agreed order, but it doesn't have Mr. Mills' signature on it. Agreed order dismissing The contempt of court issued December the 8th. And his bond reinstates Mr. Reed's bond.
Okay,
I intended to sign it, Your Honor. I apologize on that. I think I attached the wrong order.
But you do agree to it.
I do.
All right, I will sign it.
I
Who's
have
at the podium
Mario,
now?
that's Mario Reed, Judge.
All right, Mr. Reed, I just signed an order dismissing the contempt charge against you and reinstating your bond.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Reed, just be sure to stay in touch with my office.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our Commonwealth versus Joe Davis Snooks, 21 CR 58.
Judge Peyton Wilson on behalf of Mr. Snooks. That's my motion for a bond modification.
Right, bond's 2,500 now. Mr. Snooks is asking for 10% of that cash or bail credit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're gonna call Mr. Snooks as a witness.
Yes, if I may.
Mr. Snooks, raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Mr. Snooks, can you state your name?
Joe Davis Snooks. And Peyton, I had some information also. The witness to my case that I talked to you about he's sitting right out here in the hall.
Okay. That'd be just fine. Just a second, Mr. Snooks. We got to take some other information before we get to that. Mr. Snooks, do you know what your bond's presently set at?
2,500 cash, I think, sir.
Okay, and you can't make that?
No, sir.
And you could make 10%?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many days have you been in?
I was incarcerated on December the 5th, sir.
Okay. So what's that? 2.5 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, it's sufficient to say you've been in for over 25 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, if the judge were to give you some bond relief here in this matter, would you be living here in town?
Yes, sir.
Where would you stay at?
I have put in a home placement at River City Mission till I can get out and get an apartment. I have money out there that I can get available to me if I get out to get it, but I can't get out to get it to get a place to live. And I'm a full-time student here at KCTC. So
sure. Hang on just a second about that, Mr. Snooks. So slow down a second. As far as housing goes, you're saying that you've got a home placement with River City Mission. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is here in town?
Yes, sir.
And you'd be able to stay there until you're able to secure housing elsewhere. Would it be your intent to stay in town when you're securing that new housing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now, would you have any issue communicating that with pretrial?
No, not at all.
Okay. So you could provide them with, I guess, your contact info or address?
The one that I gave for River City Mission for my parole officer is what I have. I could give that to them. Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Now, as far as attending court moving forward, you do understand that you got to make any and all court dates?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, and it's your intention to see this case through, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, now moments ago you were referencing a witness out in the hall. Who is that?
Roderick Grief.
Okay, and is he willing, able, and wanting to testify here today?
Yes, sir. He said he would be more than happy to.
Okay, and do you know what he has information regarding?
He has information regarding the, I guess, the ownership of the drugs that I'm being charged with, the possession or the trafficking charge. He knows he spoke in depth with the other gentleman that is co-defendant on my case, and he come to me and told me that he'd be willing to testify. As to what he would say, I don't know because we're not in the same cell, but he's out there.
Sure. Is it fair to say that you don't actually know what he'll say, but it's got something to do with the charges you're facing?
Yes, sir.
In the co-defendant you got?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as far as what you'd be doing if the judge were to give you some bond relief here today, do you have a job lined up or some type of work?
Yes, sir. I have had a previous job offer with Perry Home Improvements, which is construction work and so forth. And that's what I work at the racetrack normally, which is off season, so I was laid off and working on cars. And I've got Mr. Perry would also give me employment. He's stated as far as like remodeling houses and stuff and so.
Sure. You also mentioned you're a student. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I'm a full-time student at WKCTC, 3 semesters. I've got a 3.7 grade point average right now.
Sure. Is it your intention to resume those classes to get back in that coursework?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to be a drug addiction counselor.
Okay. Isn't it also true that you were involved in some type of NA meetings?
Yes, sir. I hold a charter membership for Narcotics Anonymous World Service. I hold NA meetings at the halfway house here in Paducah. That was my meeting, actually.
Sure. And is it your position that you are not in any way guilty of these crimes that you're charged with?
I am not, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I've got for you, Mr. Snooks. Mr. Mills might have some. Thank you.
Mr. Snooks, you're from Bowling Green, right?
Yes, sir.
And what connection do you have to Paducah?
The last 16 months of my sentence, I was at the halfway house here at KCI.
Okay. And what was that sentence for? Was that the manufacturing methamphetamine?
It was, yes, sir.
And how long of a sentence did you get on that?
The manufacturing methamphetamines was 15 years, sir.
So how much more sentence do you have? Or are you served out?
No, sir, I'm not served out. Probably 13 years. I'm not exactly sure what the calculation would be, but roughly that.
Is your PO aware of this arrest for trafficking that you have here?
Yes, sir, he is.
And they haven't lodged a warrant on you yet for parole violation?
No, sir. As far as I know, I haven't violated my parole.
Okay. The prior to that manufacturing, you had a conviction in 2015 for burglary in Bowling Green. Is that right?
It was a third-degree burglary was the charge. Yes, sir.
Are you still on parole for that? I think you got a 5-year sentence.
That was run together with the manufacturing. It's all the same. It's the same time as far as I know, sir.
It looks like around that time in 2015 in Bowling Green, you had a couple of convictions for domestic violence. Is that right?
I don't really think it was. I was arguing with my mother over the fact that I was using drugs, and I don't know what the actual charges and convictions were, but that's what was happening.
And then prior to that, and I guess in 2012, you had a felony conviction for receiving stolen property. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I'd say it probably is.
Just as it, well, I guess you had a burglary first that was amended down to a felony theft in 2005. Is that right?
I'm not sure on the date, sir, but if that's what you got in front of you, yes, sir, I'd say you're probably right.
And you've had 2 prior convictions for bail jumping. Is that right? One in 2005 and one in 2004. Does that sound right?
That, yes. I mean, there's extenuating circumstances to all of that. When you read it like that, it sounds terrible, but yeah, that's true. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions that I have.
Anything else?
Judge, as far as redirect goes, I just have one follow-up. Mr. Snooks, it's your testimony that you can't afford that $2,500.
I cannot, no, sir.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge.
Okay. Or you're going to call this other witness, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, if I can. And Mr. Snooks, I apologize. What's this fellow's name?
Roderick Green.
Yeah, I'd like to call him.
1 second, Judge.
Mr. Snooks, if you just want to take a seat, he'll come up to the podium.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, morning, afternoon.
Hey, what's your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Roderick Grief.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you
Grief,
for
raise
that.
your right hand, please, sir.
Okay, yes.
We are affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you.
Yes, sir.
May proceed, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Judge. Roderick, could you state your name again for the record?
Roderick Grief, G-R-E-F.
Thank you, Mr. Grief. And Mr. Snooks had indicated moments ago while under oath that you got some information regarding the co-defendant in his case. Is that right?
Yes, we were in, I'm sorry, I have some memory issues. I have a disease, so give me just a second. But we were in one of the, I think it was 11 together, all of us. And I was sleeping in there and they were in another room together.
They being who, Mr. Grief?
Mr. Snooks and Mike.
Mike what?
Oh, I forget his last name. He's a bigger guy, older gentleman. He has a little bit of a mustache thing like that.
Sure. Is it Mike, Mr. Snooks' co-defendant?
Yeah. Well, it was the person that was in the room at the time with him was this Mike. It was Mike and Snooks and the co-defendant. Yes, correct.
Go ahead. What was said?
That was who he was. It was that Mike. Yes.
Sure, but go ahead with what you saw or perceived.
I kind of overheard, or it was mostly Mike was kind of bragging on, that he may have been a person who sells illegal substances, and that it was that he was just driving, pretty much clueless in the whole thing, and that he had the drugs on him and was bragging about, him making money and, stuff that, they'll casually brag on, I got this, I got that,
Sure. And just to be clear, Mr. Grief, are you saying that Mr. Snooks' co-defendant indicated that he was the actual trafficker in this case and Mr. Snooks had no idea about the methamphetamine in the car?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Grief. That's all that I really had. Mr. Mills might have some additional questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Grief, hold up a second. Let me talk to you for a minute.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you were in the same cell with Mike Johnson, is that right?
Johnson, that's his last name, yes.
And he's the co-defendant with Mr. Snooks?
Yes.
And he said that he was a drug trafficker.
Well, I mean, he was selling it, I assume I think they call your laws and stuff are different here in Kentucky, but basically I was a drug dealer is what, I would assume.
So he's a drug dealer. And you said he was driving?
No, Mike was the passenger and Snooks was driving.
Okay. And I think, so what exactly did he say?
His exact words were, he was bragging, I'm sorry, I have dystonia and Parkinson's, and I've had some problems with it in here, so I don't communicate well and talk well. My memory's not the best, but basically.
You're doing well. Go ahead.
He was kind of bragging on, that he was a drug dealer and he made money at this, and I've done this for years and stuff, and to that lines, and definitely he didn't make it sound like Mr. Snooks was a partner involved at all. He was just driving with friends, and that's it was basically like that. It was 2.5 months ago, so word for word, I don't want to,
He made it sound like Snooks. How did he make it sound like that?
Just driving? He was like, yeah, me and him are friends, and he was driving a car for me, and I've been around drugs since I think he said like the 60s, 70s, and bragging on some other stuff that he had transported a bunch of pot back for years ago, and that was.
Did Mr. Johnson tell you that Mr. Snooks was the one that handed him the case that had all the meth in it?
No, the only thing that he said that they had never you know, he had talked about him having it in his pocket is what I got out of that.
And so you were in a cell with both Mr. Snooks and Mr. Johnson?
We're in a big cell, like 25, 35 of us together. And both of them were in a little cell, you know what I'm saying? That slept two people. And then I was next to them and in front of them, out on the floor basically. And then I got a cell next to them when people rotated in and out. See what I'm
So
saying?
you all three were talking about this?
They were initially talking about it, and then I got involved in conversation just from, 24 hours a day, and us talk, I kind of just drifted in. We talked and casually talked and stuff.
So Mr. Snooks was present when this conversation happened?
Well, there were several conversations, you know what I'm saying? So there were several conversations that we had throughout 2 weeks or something together. Some Snooks would be there, some Mike would just be there, because me and Snooks, we also talked about cars together. And then me and Mike, I talked to him when we were in there together too, so there are some with Snooks there, some without.
Okay. Did Mr. Snooks tell you anything about his extensive history with methamphetamine use?
He said he'd been in trouble with the law before. He's pretty open person. Me and him, when we switched to the other cell, we talked a lot about does a recovery. He's wanting to do a recovery class and stuff, and he's been in school for that. And that had intrigued me, so we started talking about that together. It's mostly what we talked about together is that. And I didn't ask a lot of questions about his history, and he didn't ask a lot about mine. We had cars in common, and just in a bad place, all of us together.
What's your first name again, Mr. Grief?
Roderick, Rodrick.
And which cell did you say you guys were in?
11, and what was 14A was the second cell when we were transported with COVID stuff.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Grief.
Thank you.
Mr. Grief, if I might, just before you head off, I've got just a couple more follow-up questions just to put a button on some of these issues, okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Grief, did anybody promise you anything for testifying here today?
No.
Okay, and everything that you just said, you swear it's the truth?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, you understand that you can get in trouble for lying under oath, like you'd be
Yes.
subject to the penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I
Okay,
understand.
so why testify at all then?
Why testify? Because I overheard something, and it was this is my first time in jail. I'm a good person. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I see the best in people. I don't want anybody to get in trouble or not get in trouble, but the circumstances of somebody else getting in trouble for somebody else doing something isn't right to me. You know what I'm saying? Like if I do something wrong, I don't think you should get in trouble because you're there with me. You know?
Sure, and just to be clear, to summarize all of this, you're saying that what you perceived throughout the conversations at that jailhouse that you were either a party to or were able to hear,
right,
was that Mr. Snooks really didn't have any involvement in the trafficking that was going on the part of his co-defendant. Is that right?
Yes, correct. And Mr. Snooks had made it clear to me that previous life before this, he had done other stuff similar to this, but he was no longer involved in it. And that, like I said, we mostly talked about doing the housing, the AA type stuff is what it is in Illinois, or counseling together and going to rehab and better both ourselves, and that's what we mostly talked about.
Mr. Grief, thank you for your testimony here today. That's all the questions I've got. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
Just, I would ask that you take notice of the pretrial services report that says ROR, then just a statement, Judge.
Okay. And that's the same pretrial services report that says Mr. Snooks is a high risk to reoffend.
Yes, it does. Which
Yeah, I will note,
uh,
I agree, that's what it says.
it does, Judge. It is weirdly contradictory in that way. Sometimes they do that. Your Honor, I will say it this way. We try with all due candor to put on a case today for this bond effort to secure a bond that is appropriate under these circumstances. The likelihood of a conviction when presented veritable evidence, credible evidence at that, is a consideration the court can take when assessing whether and to what extent to give bond relief. Here it's $2,500 cash for trafficking that doesn't look like it's going to stick with respect to Mr. Grief's testimony. That said, there are a whole lot of other things that can come into play with respect to that ultimate question of guilt and innocence. However, that's not before us today. Rather, my client enjoys the presumption of innocence, despite however damning the evidence may appear. But what we've got today is somebody indicating that Mr. Snooks is essentially oblivious to what is going on in his car and is roped in because of his past into this situation. What you've also got, Judge, is Mr. Snooks credibly identifying what he has been doing since those issues in his past to right the ship. Now, we're not asking that he go entirely unscathed by any skin in this game. Rather, we're asking for a 10%, or really, I think what would be more appropriate is the bail credit, because he's there. He's got that 25 days in, and more importantly, if he's convicted of this, this isn't going to be what drives the bus of his future incarceration. Rather, that other paroled case with 15 years or what is 13 years over his head far exceeds what he's facing here in this trafficking charge that doesn't appear like it's going to lie at that trial phase, or that guilt or innocence phase. It is with that that Mr. Snooks is hopeful to get back out, get back in school, continue on his path of doing what he was doing, which is being an NA counselor. I think he knew the risks associated with those types of persons, but I also think he was dumbfounded when confronted with the fact that somebody in his car is trafficking meth. And for that, he sat there for quite some time. We think that that is an appropriate amount of collateral to ensure that he will show back up to court and see this thing through. Granted, a manufacturing meth charge is a very serious offense that he does have hanging in the balance that can revoke him. But it's with that the amount of meth at issue doesn't seem to jive with those prior convictions either. Because if anybody would have known the stakes in that game, it'd have been him. If he really was convicted of manufacturing meth, he would certainly understand the risks of trafficking it. And that said, with 13 years hanging in the balance, it just doesn't, the math doesn't add up, because the economy of this just doesn't make sense on what's in the citation itself. And that's notwithstanding what we just heard from the testimony of what we'd have to deem as almost a jailhouse snitch at this juncture. And so with all of that in mind, again, we think that this is an appropriate case to give Mr. Snooks some bond relief. We're hopeful that that is by way of bail credit, but he can and says he could make that $250 if you're so inclined to 10% it. With that, Judge, we're hopeful that you do give him some relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Mills, what's the Commonwealth's position?
Commonwealth opposes. Frankly, a $2,500 cash bond is a gift, considering Mr. Snooks' extensive criminal history, including burglaries, bail jumping, meth manufacturing, all sorts of crimes. His very limited ties to this community, having only come here as a result of going to a halfway house, his current parole status, and the evidence that we heard, well, it is what it is. I'm not sure that it necessarily is going to be able to win the day for him. Be that as it may, $2,500 is more than a fair bond, considering Mr. Snooks' history and the nature of this offense.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Court finds that Mr. Snooks is a high risk to reoffend and is a danger to others. He's got serious charges here. He's got multiple convictions for burglary, theft, DUI, assault. He's got a conviction for manufacturing methamphetamine. He was on parole when this offense was allegedly committed. I believe in this case, $2,500 is actually fairly generous to Mr. Snooks. Bond will remain $2,500 cash. Commonwealth versus Charles David Thomas, 20 CR 620. right, who represents Mr. Thomas?
I do, and I'm trying to start the video, and that was half
Thank you.
frozen. It started now.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Thomas is being held without bond. And let's see what the reason for that is. Failed to appear for his pretrial conference on January the 4th. And he's asking that to be reinstated, or $1,000, 10% cash, property surety, or bail credit. Did I cover the gamut? Mr. Johnson, you froze up on me. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Miss Lee, you're close to Mr. Johnson's office.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm coming.
He's coming. He lost his link.
Okay. Let me see. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are you going to call Mr. Thomas as a witness?
I am. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes.
No problem. Mr. Thomas, would you raise your right hand, please, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Johnson.
Could you state your name, please?
Charles David Thomas,
And where do you live?
365 Meacham Lane, lot 61.
In Paducah?
Yeah.
And how long have you lived in Paducah?
About 15, 16 years,
Okay. How old are you, Mr. Thomas?
36.
36. And where'd you live before that?
Columbia, Kentucky.
Okay. Have you always lived in Kentucky?
Yes.
Okay. And you've lived here since you're about 20 years old or so?
Yes.
Do you have relatives here?
Yes, sir.
And if you were to bond out, do you have a job here, or what would you be doing?
I do construction work and remodeling.
So you would be working,
Yes.
finding work? See, you missed a pretrial conference date on January 4th, and you've been in jail since January 11th. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Would you be able to make your court dates?
Yes, I missed that court date because I couldn't figure out how to do the Zoom stuff, and the courthouse was closed. I wasn't trying to miss the court date. I just didn't know how to get a hold of the Zoom stuff to do it.
Okay, and what sort of bond would you be able to post?
I really can't post anything right now. It was the OR bond, I think. If I could just get that reinstated.
You'd be asking for bail credit. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So Mr. Mills may have some questions.
Thomas, you've had a couple of indictments for possession recently where you were found not guilty. Were those what happened with those? Was that a trial, or did you do drug court, or what happened?
Trial.
Was it trial? Okay.
Trial, yes.
Two separate trials?
Yes.
All right. Now it looks like prior to that, you had a felony conviction back in 2009 for a theft. Is that right?
Yes.
I guess it doesn't look like we're going to be having in-person court really soon, hopefully sooner rather than forever away, but we're still going to be doing this Zoom court for the foreseeable future. If the court lets you out, why would we believe that you would figure out how to work Zoom now and be able to appear at your court appearance?
Because the courthouse is open. I couldn't get a hold of the courthouse to get the link to the Zoom. It was on January 4th. The courthouse had closed December 2nd. I couldn't get a hold of the courthouse to get the Zoom link, but now the courthouse is reopened.
All right. right, that's all I have.
Anything else, Mr. Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have arguments, sir?
Well, I just think it's mostly self-explanatory. He has long-standing ties to this area, and he would like to be able to get out, and he's been incarcerated since January 11th, and so he would like a bond and is asking for bail credit.
All right, Mr. Thomas was released on bail, or actually he was ROR'd, released on recognizance. Let me see if I can find a date on this. In August, probably August 21st or thereabouts. Then according to his criminal history, he committed the offense of second-degree stalking and first-degree criminal trespass on October the 4th while he was out on bond in this case.
But that was a warrant from like sometime back during the summer. It was.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well,
I didn't know anything about it.
charge was from October the 4th, and I really can't really contradict what you're going to say, Mr. Thomas. Fact is, though, you did miss your January 4th pretrial conference. However, I'm not going to hold you on without bond there. But I am going to amend your bond to $2,500 cash. I think that's reasonable based on your missing of a court date.
Can I get bond credit for that, or
No bulk credit, cash. $2,500 cash.
so that I can't get a 10% or anything?
No, sir. And, frankly, I think it's fortunate for you that I'm willing to amend it from no bond whatsoever.
Okay. So when's my next court date then?
Thanks. March 10th.
March 10th.
Yeah,
Can I talk to you before then?
couple of weeks. I beg your pardon?
I'll try to talk to you in the next couple of days.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, sir. Commonwealth versus Roderick Seth Grief,
Got the next one.
21 CR 56.
Well,
Hello again, Mr. Grief.
well,
This is my case, Your Honor.
Okay, his bond now is $500, and you're asking for 10% cash, property surety.
Or bail credit.
Okay. You're going to call Mr. Grief as a witness?
Yes.
Mr. Grief, raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear from the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Could you state your name, please?
Roderick Seth Grief.
And Mr. Grief, where are you from?
Actually, I was born here, and a lot of my family's from right here in Paducah area, but I live about 50 miles away, where I've lived almost all my life around Harrisburg, El Dorado, Illinois.
Okay. And if you were to get out on bond, who would you be living with, where, and what would you be doing?
I would either be living at my house that we've acquired since 93-ish, 95-ish, because also I'm sick and my doctor's in El Dorado, or I'm actually considering moving here to Paducah, Kentucky, because I have family here too, and I really actually like the Kentucky area. I own a small business. I build race engines and sell race car parts. And so I would continue to do that. If I stay in the El Dorado area, I'm also involved in the church with passing out some food. And I'm trying to be more involved in my community as I get older and I get sicker, because I have a bad disease and I want to do something, meaningful in my life to help out other people.
I don't want to get too personal. Did you want to get into your disease or?
Well, it's real urgent that I get out, and it's progressed over the last year. Well, I've had it 5 to 7 years, and it's progressed.
You're talking about Parkinson's, is that correct?
Dystonia and Parkinson's. It's like a stage of Parkinson's. And I really need to get I need to get some different medicines because they won't allow me to have all my medicines here. And two, I had a big doctor's appointment that I've been waiting about 3 years to go to in December, about the time I got put in here. And I've been waiting a long time to go to that appointment, and it's very urgent that I get that line back up, and I hopefully don't have to be in line again for that. But it's crippling disease.
With your disease, do you have people to help you keep up with dates and
Yeah,
things?
I'm actually trying to get a program in Illinois that I found out about the time all this happened. I was trying to get with this program, which will pay for so many hours of a nurse, and I'm trying to get my disability set up. I'm just a proud person. I want to work, and it's hard to face when you're sick and you can't do it. And I'm trying to raise 2 small children. And I mean, if you like my history, I've been in any real trouble until the last 2-ish years, and this disease is chewing up my head. It just makes things. I never used to talk like this. I used to be able to understand what's going on. I can't count and read like I used to. I get confused easy. And so I am I don't plan on arguing the DUI, so I plan on losing my license, and I don't plan on regaining my license except in an ID form. So I won't be driving anymore. Is one thing that I do want to be right up front with the court, that I don't plan on driving anymore. I plan on having somebody else drive me. And I'm going to be trying to get this nurse, which I thought we had some of that already going. And so I'm going to try to get this nurse coming in, and then I'm going to be living with my mom. So she will be with me in the evenings, and then the nurse during the day. If I move to Kentucky, I'm going to talk to my family here and work around what scheduling they have.
Are you confident that you would have transportation and be able to keep up with your court dates?
Yeah, I have cars. People I know have cars. I have plenty of friends that will get us to and from court. And so, yeah, I'm confident that that's never a problem. I'm a businessman. I try to, keep all my dates all the time, and I'm confident that will not be an issue. And my biggest problem while being in here has been I only have 2 addresses memorized and 1 phone number. So I haven't been able to get a hold of any people. I know 5 people right here in the Paducah area that would bring me my money to get out. I just haven't been able to, any ability to get to it. And supposedly I only had $3 on me when I got here.
Okay. Do you pay child support, or do your kids live with you?
No, I do not pay child support yet. We just started a divorce. That's another thing. I'm trying to get that all figured out and moved around what's going on here in Kentucky because, I want to get the criminal stuff here taken care of and concluded, and I want to get my children taken care of. You can notify my wife's attorney, and her attorney will tell you that I had already made 1 payment back around November before I got in trouble. That was just an outright payment. I don't have any, they're not telling me to make payments, just they're my kids and my wife. I'm going to give them money.
If you're able to work and you want to work.
But I own my own business.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Mills?
Grief, as far as your criminal history, you do have a little bit of
Yes, sir.
prior record out of state, right?
Illinois, my home state, correct. Yeah, I have in the last 2 years since this disease is go up my head. I've had some stuff there come up, and
You had a criminal trespass charge in 2017, right?
Yeah, around then, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then in 2018, you got a criminal damage to property?
Around there somewhere, yes. I've not been on my dates in years, sir. I'm sorry, but yes.
And then prior to that, I guess you had a domestic violence conviction in 2005. Is that right?
Long time ago, yeah. Long time ago, yeah.
All right.
And also, I do know this, if you check my 2000, you said 5, if you check in there and you read my statement, you will see that if I do something wrong, I fill it out in a statement. So anytime I've done something wrong, just like in this case, I know that at least I do one substance illegally, and that will be in here, and I plan on pleading guilty to the DUI for sure. No questions asked, and that's just the person I am. I mean, I know the judge is here to do his job too, and I respect that, but if I'm guilty of something, I'm gonna tell you I did it. And you know, I've always stepped up when I've been guilty of something. I just don't have phone numbers and ability in here and money on me to get out. And I've always, you know, steady work history before I opened my own business. My family's been in this area since the 30s and has always owned businesses up until the 90s, and is a reputable name amongst people 65 and older. So I've always been a hard worker. And
Mr. Grief, there's nobody that would post $500 for you?
the only number I have is my mom, and she is upset because I was in her car when this happened. So, and so also I'm wanting to seek some help for, I have an addiction problem. That's about the biggest problem in my life, is that I faced a drug problem since I was 18, and I had that straightened out until I was about 32. At 32, I stopped and was clean until recently. But my family's issues and my body, my health, it's destroying me. And if you knew me 5 years ago, you would recognize me now on the streets. And it just, I don't remember anything. I don't understand stuff. I fight with, my bladder breaks down, and I still try to be a good person. That's why I'm trying to get this nurse to be around me, and I'm not wanting to drive anymore because I know something's going wrong. And I mean, the next 5 years, I'll be in a nursing home, guys, not know who I am. I mean, I'm not too excited about this, and I just want to be a good person and get the help I need. And I've got a really good doctor and some good friends too. It's just I've only been able to contact 2 people, and my stepmom just found out I was in here, and I got a letter in the last few days. And so, yeah, I just don't, I mean, my business, I have money, you know, means to make money. I buy and sell race car parts. You know, if I was out of here in 2 days, I'd get you $500, no problem, but I can't do it from here without a computer.
All right, Mr. Grief, that's all I have.
Mr. Johnson, do you have argument?
Well, he seems to be a straight up person. He's been incarcerated over 2 months and asking for bail credit so he can take care of his business, whether it's family business, court business. And I think he's going to take care of what he needs to take care of.
And while I'm out, if you don't mind me interrupting, while I'm out, I also plan on going ahead, and no matter what the court decides, I want to take some type of drug rehab or drug classes. I just want to see my options, you know, Kentucky, Illinois. So I do plan on looking into that if you let me out today, for example, by tonight, I'm going to already know who I'm calling tomorrow and get it all wrote down so I can be taking care of this. I have a preacher who I talk to regularly that has helped me out a lot, since a lot of stuff in Illinois has been closed down back, I think, previous Kentucky. You know, I think we were one of the first states to shut down. And when I felt things going wrong, I wasn't waiting for places shut down. I was like, I got to find help somehow. So that's when I get back, I'm going to be talking to my preacher once or twice a week, and I'm going to find somewhere that's open that will talk to me. And then my doctor is a personal friend. I'll be on his doorstep asking for, you know, hey, what can we do? You know, do we need to change the medicine? Do I need to go stay at a facility until we get it changed? Not driving will help me out a lot because I'll just stay at home.
Mr. Mills, what's the Commonwealth's position?
$500 is, again, very generous based on what he's charged with, and
I agree it's generous.
Day, but
I agree that's generous.
Mr. Grief, now, time for your talking's over with.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir.
All right.
Commonwealth opposes, mainly for the reason that it's worrisome that Mr. Grief is going to be able to remember and recall court dates with just minimal help. It worries me about him just being in the breeze in Illinois if he's gone, more than anything. And of course, DUIs are troubling, and it's always a dangerous situation. I don't know. I also worry that Mr. Grief seems to be the kind of guy that's easy to take advantage of and be suggested of things. But that's neither here nor there. So we oppose, Ron.
Okay. Well, pretrial services says Mr. Grief is a high risk for failure to appear. Additionally, report I have from the form citation was that during this multi-state flight from officers, he tried to ram deputies from the Massac County Deputies Department. He's got prior criminal history. I think $500 under the circumstances is more than reasonable. Bond will remain $500. Non-financial conditions, no further violations of the law, no driving, not to consume alcohol or use illegal drugs, not to possess any weapons. Report pretrial services immediately upon release and random drug testing while on bond if he makes bond. Pretrial conference, we're going to see you back on April the 19th, Mr. Grief.
Can I ask my lawyer a question?
Yes, sir.
If it's gonna, I mean, I don't object to pleading guilty and being sentenced. I'm not trying to cause your state any money. I'm not trying to cause any problems, Your Honor. I'm trying to get home. My life expectancy is a lot shorter, and that's what I'm trying to get back to. I'm trying to get back to what little life I have, not in a wheelchair, and knowing my name. I wake up here every morning, and it takes me 30 minutes to an hour to realize where I am and who I talk to.
Mr. Grief, well, I'm very sorry about that. I can't take your guilty plea today, Miss. Maybe if you want to talk, Mr. Johnson, if you want to give him a holler and see if he wants to get on a motion hour docket.
Thank you.
Consider that.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll look.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson, whatever we can do. Thank you. Thank you.
Commonwealth versus Mac Anderson, 21 CR 62.
Yeah.
Who represents Mr. Anderson?
Audrey.
Ms. Lee. Thank you, Ms. Lee. I see you waiting.
I'm back.
Yes, Your Honor, I do represent Mr. Anderson.
Okay, bond is $5,000 now. You want some relief from that? Or Mr.
Yes, Your Honor, we do. Get back over here. Yes. Yes,
You're going to call Mr. Anderson as a witness?
yes, Your Honor, we will.
Mr. Anderson, raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you.
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Lee.
Okay, so Mr. Anderson, can you give us your name and your address, please?
Mac Anderson, 435 Thurman Street, Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
I think it's 345 Thurman Street, Paducah, Kentucky.
345. Okay, so that's your address before your arrest. And you live by yourself or do you live with someone else?
That was my other girlfriend.
Your other girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so if you were released, would you go to live with the other girlfriend?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, what's the other girlfriend's name?
Leslie Harris.
What's the name?
Leslie Harris.
Leslie Harris. Okay, so you going back to live with Leslie Harris, and that would be your other girlfriend. And so, do you work?
No, I was recently on work relief. I had just had surgery, and I lost my brother in June or July, around in that time, and then I had surgery on my right hand for carpal tunnel surgery.
Mhm. So you were not working due to being unable to use your hand? Is
Yes,
what you're
ma'am.
saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what type of work do you normally do?
I was working. I was doing at Pilgrims in Mayfield. I was doing that.
So you were over there at the chicken factory?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Lee, somehow you got muted.
All it takes is one movement. So yes. How long have you been in jail on this charge?
About 3 months now.
About 3 months.
Need 3
And
months.
this is and they're co-defendants. You have 3 co-defendants on this case.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you already told us if you get out where you'll go and live with the other girlfriend, so you won't be with these co-defendants here, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So do you think you might be able to find some employment?
I should be able to, but like I said, I'm still having like problems like with my hand. I just had surgery with, so because I was going to therapy doing this stuff that happened, I was going to therapy, and so like I don't know, I still feeling type of like pins and needles like sticking me in my hand. So I don't know if it.
Okay. So you still having some problems here with your hands now. Over there in the chicken factory, what part did you work in? Did you work up there where the real cold part is? And
Yes,
with
debone. Debone.
So you up there, okay, so you have to use your hands because you up there deboning the chicken. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's okay. So you know how important it is to show up for your court dates,
Yes, ma'am.
and you got a $5,000 bond here. Can you make any of this a $5,000 cash bond?
But is that 5,000 all cash? I ain't got no 5,000 cash.
So you would be asking the court. We were asking probably for some sort of combination of bail credit or
Yes,
any
or
type of reduction.
bail credit,
That's
or
what
or anything like that.
Have you had any history of missing courts in the past?
No.
Okay. Do you I know you said you're gonna go live with your other girlfriend. Do you have any children that you have any child support obligations for or anything like that?
No, I got kids, but I ain't getting no child support now.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have to ask.
Mr. Mills?
Anderson, how long have you lived in Kentucky?
Say about maybe 2 years and a half, something like that now, I believe so. Somewhere around there.
And you said you've been working at the chicken factory in Mayfield?
Yes. I didn't work other places too though, but you know, because I was living out here and then going to I was working at places in Illinois and stuff too.
It looks like the only Kentucky conviction I have you for was a domestic violence conviction back in August of this year. Or last year? Is that right?
Yes. They dropped all them charges and stuff.
I mean, the record I have looks like you pled guilty to assault.
To assault.
Isn't that right?
No, I didn't plead guilty to no assault.
You don't think you got a 60-day jail sentence that was probated?
No, I didn't. No, they let me go on probation or whatever to go to counseling, and I was going up there, and the people kept sending me over there to next door and calling in, and the people wouldn't answer the phone during the pandemic. I'm constantly going over there to check in. They called it date violence or something. That was the other man had called it or whatever. But
you got a pretty long criminal history in Illinois, don't you?
Yeah.
looks like the last criminal offense that we have you on is a criminal damage to property in Carbondale. Is that right?
Yeah, that was also cleared up too, I think.
Okay.
Mr. Mills, I'm not getting the, yeah, I can't think of the NCIC reports anymore.
Okay.
If there's a extensive history in Illinois, I'm not aware of it. So you're going to have to listen to that testimony or let me know what the NCIC says.
Okay. Looks like you were found guilty in 2018 in Carbondale of resisting an officer and damage to property. Does that not sound correct to you?
That sound correct to me, sir.
Now, where is Murfreesboro? Is that in Jackson County?
Yeah, that's Jackson County.
Okay. All right. It looks like in 2013 in Murfreesboro, you pled guilty to domestic battery and received a 90-day jail sentence. Does that sound right?
I did prison time and all that for that stuff, I think.
Okay. When's the last time you did prison time?
Ooh, it's been a minute, sir. So I've been staying out of trouble recently, trying to stay out of trouble.
All right. Now you got a 30-month sentence in 2016. I think you might have went to Menard out of Carbondale, isn't that right?
Yeah, I went to Menard, did yeah.
And that was for domestic battery, right?
Supposed to, man. Well, well, I stayed, my bills and stuff was going at that house too while I was staying there. You know what I mean? I was staying there. And that's what they call that home invasion or damage to property or whatever, but it was my place too. So yeah, but I did do prison time for all that stuff and got back on the right track and started work. So I called myself
in Minneapolis as well.
You
lived in Minneapolis for a time in the early 2000s?
No.
No.
You said Minneapolis?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah, I lived in Minnesota.
Okay. You got some domestic violence convictions in the early 2000s, like 2001 in Minneapolis as well, right?
Yeah, but it's been a long time. Yeah, all that stuff. I was young.
All right. You know, actually, that's all the questions that I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mills. Anything else?
You know, I think I'm gonna call the pretrial officer, Miss Hurst.
Let's see if Miss Lee has any proof.
Oh, sorry.
First, Mr. Mills.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just
Ms.
ask,
Lee?
Yes. Mr.
I'm sorry.
Anderson, can you hear me?
Ma'am.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, so Mr. Anderson, let me just ask you, I don't have the discovery that might have all your record in it, but I ask you, have you had any problems with not showing up to court?
Oh, not recent, no. I ain't never had no problem, no. I'm always showing up for court.
unless they reschedule it or something, you know what I mean?
Okay, I just want to know that you will show up for court. Okay,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
all. Okay, now, so, thank you.
Other proof, Ms. Lee?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any proof.
All right, Mr. Mills, who you calling?
I'm gonna call Morgan Hurst, Casey Hurst.
Ms. Hurst, are you online?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Thank you.
You are Casey Hurst,
I am.
and you're employed with pretrial services.
That's correct.
And as such, do you have access to Mr. Anderson's NCIC, his out-of-state record?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm guessing you can do a much better job at going through this than I can. So could you tell us just a brief summary of his record in Illinois concerning felony offenses and domestic violence?
Yes, I can read you his convictions.
Okay.
There's several charges that did not have a disposition listed, but I can read you all of the convictions.
Okay, that would help.
Thank you. A manufacturing or delivering a controlled substance charge conviction in 2008. After that, he had a conviction for domestic battery in 2013, a second conviction for domestic battery and a charge of criminal damage to property in 2013, another charge of resisting arrest in 2016, a charge of domestic battery in 2016. Prior to those, he had a charge of criminal trespass in 2005, a charge of resisting arrest in 2006, and 2 more charges of damage to property in 2016 and 2018. Those were all in Illinois.
Okay. All right, Ms. Hurst. Anything recently in any other state besides Illinois?
No, sir, that was it. The only other state he had any record from was the Minnesota charge, and that was from 2001. That was a misdemeanor.
All right. Okay, Ms. Hurst, thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, Ms. Lee, do you have any questions for Ms. Hurst?
No questions, Your Honor.
Do you have an argument, Ms. Lee?
Your Honor, my client has been in jail for almost 3 months on this. He's not had any funds in order to make this $5,000 cash. And he said he was working at like the chicken factory, that's some pretty hard work over there. And he'd has surgery on his hands, and he needs to use his hands to deboning those chickens over there, and it's cold over there, so he's not been able to go back to do that. But he would be able to get out, and he does have a place to live, and it's with someone else. He said his other girlfriend is besides the people he was with, the woman he was with in this charge, so he would not be near them. So he wouldn't be inclined to get into any more trouble with that trio. And so we would ask that he be allowed to have bail credit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mills?
Well, we would pose a reduction in bond. $5,000, considering how serious this offense is actually pretty generous. Mr. Anderson has a very extensive criminal history, and a lot of it involves assaultive behavior. So we would argue that he is a danger to the community and would oppose a reduction in bail.
Okay. Court finds that Mr. Anderson is a danger to the community based on his extensive Illinois criminal history, which includes domestic battery, resisting arrest, and other like charges. Bond will remain at $5,000 cash. Non-financial conditions: no further violations of the law, not to consume any alcohol or use illegal drugs, not to possess any weapons, no contact with the complaining witness or victim, stay at least 500 feet away from the victim or anywhere the victim is likely to be. Good luck, Mr. Anderson.
But I have a question.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But why is all this saying I'm danger to the thing, and all that stuff was taken care of when I went to prison from all that stuff?
Well, because those are the things the court can consider in determining whether or not you pose a risk to the community, Mr. Anderson. Yes, you're not getting extra punishment for that, but
I can't tell, Your Honor. I can't tell. I can't tell you on.
Can't tell what.
Like y'all bringing up all this old stuff on me or whatever.
It's right.
This happened in the past when I was younger.
Right.
I'm 44 now.
Okay. All right, Mr. Anderson, good luck to you, sir. Commonwealth versus Ronald F. Tink Jr., 21 CR 68.
Yes, I represent Mr. Anderson, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. And I got a couple of things that you wanted me to see, I guess, is that right?
Right, Donna, I was gonna try to share screen or something, but that's
Has
fine.
Mr. Mills
Okay.
seen him? Did you
I
send?
sent it to Mr. Mills. I don't know if he,
Was it the proof of insurance? Was it the proof of insurance, Ms. Lee? If so, I got that.
Okay.
Proof of insurance and a statement from Ron F. Tink.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
There's a statement about him. He is self-employed, so but there's a statement about his employment.
I see it now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are you going to call Mr. F. Tink as a witness, Ms. Lee?
Yes, Your Honor, I will call Mr. Epstein as a witness.
Mr. F. Tink, would you raise your right hand, please, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Epstein, can you give us your full name and your address, please?
Ronald F. King Jr., 3233 Massac Creek Road, Metropolis, Illinois.
Okay, so you do live in Metropolis, Illinois?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you live with anybody over there in Metropolis?
Yes, I live with my father and my mother and my 2 boys.
Okay, so you live with your parents and your 2 boys. And you were submitted some things to the court. One of them, which is the insurance and the license, I believe, that was part of the reason why you were stopped. So you've shown the court that you've remedied some of the things in your case. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the court is saying that. Now, Mr. F. Tank, you've been in jail since this happened?
Yes,
Since
ma'am. February.
Okay.
5th.
It's February 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and your bond is $5,000 cash right now. You submitted something says about your employment. Are you self-employed?
Yeah, I work for my father. He's self-employed.
Okay, so you work for your father, and this note, it says that you work X number of hours a week. That's to attest to your this is from your father to attest that you work 40 to 60 hours a week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you are gainfully employed. And you say your 2 boys live there with you and your parents?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you help support
I
your
support
2 boys?
Yes, ma'am. I help with the bills around their house too.
Okay. And so if you're allowed, if your bond is reduced, that's where you'll be going back to
Yes,
live
ma'am.
there with your 2 boys. And you will have this year, you still have employment working for your dad there, correct? Okay. So of this $5,000, is there anything that you can come up and pay?
I can get 10% of it.
10%? So you want the court to consider 10% of that $5,000. Okay. And so you know your pretrial conference date, your next court date in April? You know what
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is?
Yep.
April the 19th, you know that? Okay. So you know how important it is to show up for that court date?
Yes.
Okay, so now if you have a record somewhere like in Illinois or someplace, I'm not privileged to have that. If you had any problems with showing up for court at any time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Mills?
All right, Mr. F. Tink, Pope County, is that Cairo?
No, that's Golconda.
Okay, all
That's
right,
Saline- It runs with Saline and all that up there.
gotcha. So your last conviction, it looks like, was in 2019 in Pope County. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
That was theft of a firearm
No, a trailer.
trailer. You received 2 years probation for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you had a retail theft earlier that year in 2019.
It
What's
was
that?
It was a few years later.
Okay. A retail theft, and you received, I think, 12 months probation on that one. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you had a theft conviction in Metropolis in 2018. Is that right?
That's the same one that you was talking about, the retail.
I apologize. I thought that was again in Pope County. Okay, that was the Metropolis one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had a conviction for disorderly conduct and maybe battery in Saline County. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That was like almost 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, like 2008.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it look like last drug conviction, I guess, 2003 in Massac County? Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir.
And what was that? What was the drugs in that?
Marijuana.
Okay. You did have in McCracken County, looks like a 2018 conviction for possessing meth here in Paducah. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And are you still on any kind of probation or anything on that?
No, sir.
Did they revoke it, or have you walked that
I
down?
did my classes, and they switched me probation over to Metropolis. It was 2 years, and I finished that up last January.
All right, Mr. F. Tink, that's all the questions that I have.
Ms. Lee, anything else?
No, nothing else, Your Honor.
Argument, please.
Your Honor, my argument is that my client has dependable housing with his parents and his son. And yes, there was some things in the interview with pretrials that show that he did have something in Polk County, and we're going to try to confirm exactly what he had. But Your Honor, the pretrial services report rates him as a moderate at a 2 on failure to appear, and the failure to reoffend is like a 1. So we would ask the court to take that into consideration. And a recommendation had been for ROR for him. So we would ask you to consider that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Mr. Mills?
Commonwealth opposes a bond reduction. He's charged with trafficking. It's a serious offense. He does have a prior criminal history out of state, which, mainly theft, but he does have a drug conviction as well. Based on that, it's our position that he's a danger to the community, and we would oppose a bond reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. All right, I'm going to grant Mr. F. Tink's request to amend his bond to $5,000, make it 10% cash. Non-financial conditions, no further violations of the law, not to consume any alcohol or use illegal drugs, not to possess any weapons. Court pretrial services immediately upon release, random drug testing. And I think that is all. Pretrial conference is April the 19th. What time?
Yes. 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay, we'll see you then, Mr. Efting.
Thank you.
Commonwealth versus Edwin Ray Draffin Jr., 21 CR 50.
Good afternoon, Judge Peyton Wilson on behalf of Mr. Draffin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
And Judge, before we get started, I might have to ask for a continuance on this. It's come to light that there's another case pending out of, I think, Hickman County for Mr. Draffin. I think one of the, specifically, he's been PFO'd on that. It's $25,000 bond out of Hickman. I think it'd be premature because as I'm reading it, at least one of those felony charges I don't think can lie. Because it's a concealed carry case out of 2019. I don't think that was actually an effective law then. And the warrant just recently caught up to Mr. Draffin. But needless to say, I'd like to get with Mr. Long to see if that's been litigated or where that's at, because I do think that has some implication with the way the pretrial services report reads with him being an NCA high 9.
Okay. How about March the 8th, Mr. Wilson? Does that give you enough time?
That should, Judge. I think that should. And Mr. Draffin, we can discuss this in greater detail, but I just don't feel it's appropriate quite yet without me getting with Mr. Long to go forward on this, okay?
Okay. So I'll continue till March the 8th at 1:30.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Is this one that's in Fulton?
Yes.
Commonwealth versus Robert A. Bolden, 19 CR 554. It's my understanding that Mr. Bolden is in the Fulton County Detention Center.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Do we have the Fulton County Jail online?
We do not, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, can't have the bond hearing without Mr.
No, Your Honor. I'd ask to continue it to the March date, Your Honor.
That'd be fine. What time was that?
1:30.
March the 8th at 1:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you're welcome. And Mr. Long, it might help, we'll try to get him on, but anything you can do to facilitate that would be appreciated as well.
I will do what I can.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right. Any other business before the court this afternoon?
None.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Court is adjourned.